Hey, this is John Schaffer, and you're listening to Podcast of the Wicked.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right,
I was going to say I like your cross, John.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah,
right,
that's cool.
right on Peter Chris's head. Right?
Oh yeah. Yep. How's your day been, John?
Been okay. Good.
That's good. I was just going to say, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this for us. This has been a pleasure, and I'm thrilled to be here.
Awesome, man. Hey, I appreciate you guys and your support, and so it means a lot. Sorry, I'm having some kind of allergic thing going on.
It's all good. It's the season, isn't it? You know, and I heard it was like raining a lot over by you guys.
Oh yeah, we've had some pretty intense storms, a lot of tornadoes and stuff in the area. So yeah,
stay safe. Stay safe.
Yeah, please.
So, what was it like to do this interview for the first time, like in a long time? That was a really great interview that you just did with. Was that your friend from church or?
Yeah, I think you met.
Guy. Maybe we did. Did we? We must have met him at the court date.
Yeah.
Yeah, he seemed like a really cool guy.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah. I thought he looked familiar.
Whole family has been really special to me. You know, he's a detective. He's a sharp guy, SWAT guy, and very good person.
Wow.
His dad's a pastor at my church.
That's really cool.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah, wild. It's after moving out of Florida, and a good friend of mine invited me to go to her church, and I did a couple times before I'd moved back north, and but then after moving here, I got to know Brian and Vi, and we just became like family very quickly. Very, very cool, good people.
So actually, like this, I had this question. What makes your church more special to you than any of the other churches that you've attended?
Because we focus on the Bible. It's really which is what I loved about you. Down in Florida, we're Gene's church. Just scripture. There's not a it doesn't feel like religion, there's no not works based kind of stuff at all. I mean, you do good work because you have spirit in you, but it's not like you're going to be able to earn or bribe your way into heaven or something. That's not, it's come as you are vibe completely at both of these churches that I really love. When I'm in Florida, I try to go back to Lakeview when I can, and but that's what I love about it.
That sounds great. That sounds awesome.
So is your church is it a denomination or a non-denomination?
It's non-denominational, and our church owns the property. There's no money going out to anybody else other than missionaries that we get behind, and so I like that. No debt.
Nice. I go to a non-denominational too, and it's really they have a lot of that, like just come as you are vibe, and it's not a dress up kind of place. It's like long as you come to worship the Lord, and everything that's what matters to us.
Awesome. That's good, man.
Hey.
Hi, Daria.
Howdy.
How are you?
Greetings, family. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Good. I was going to say, I got my SOL shirt on.
Nice.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it says Charity Response Team and Guardians of the Republic.
Nice.
We're all decked out.
So I don't know if you know this, but Mike Lepond is like a huge supporter of you from Symphony X. Like he's constantly liking any post about you on social media and everything. He's been following everything, and he's like a huge supporter of yours. And I just wanted to let you know he's pretty he's a friend of mine, and I've known him for a while. He's from Jersey, and
Good dude. I really loved those guys touring with him. We had a lot of fun I didn't know that, but I appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah. There's another guy too. He's from a band called Cage, Sean Peck, and he's like begging to be your singer.
I remember Sean. We met a few times, I think.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah,
sweet-
I went on tour with him, so he was
Yeah.
he was a huge fan of me doing the Iced Earth tribute band. He's a big supporter of yours as well.
What Levi and I discussed, we didn't, I know that cancel culture was brutal on people and the pressure. So I think I made that pretty clear in my initial out.
Yeah.
What I did was wrong. I got caught up in the emotion of the situation. It's just, there's a lot of deception. I think people are going to see that you can already see it if you go searching on Rumble, because there's
Yeah.
like a pretty free channel. I don't think there's any censorship.
Well, I mean, I remember when I first saw like video of you at the Capitol, and I thought I had like saw you like pulling two guys back away from the police officers.
I did, but I don't know if it was even them. The cops were raided. Another guy said they're beating an old man in there, and another one said, "Let's go." And I just got caught up into it because, I am order of the police. It's
Yeah.
not I've managed to live my life without a criminal record. This, I was a rebellious guy. I was a pirate. That's how we lived. I can't really remember, it happened so fast.
Yeah. Well, when I saw that video, I especially knew like that they were really over exaggerating like your charges and everything, and it was really stressful to see that. I could tell that you were by yourself. I could tell that you weren't like there with a whole group of people. It was really disturbing to see them lump everything into like that lawsuit, like lump you into that lawsuit. There was like one sentence about you in that lawsuit. I read it on YouTube, and I really analyzed it, and I was looking at a lot of like the different charges and everything. It just, none of it made any sense to me, and I'm really glad that you got the pardon, and I'm really glad that this chapter is at least over in your life, because it was really blown out of proportion in my opinion.
Yeah, I screwed up. There's no question. I own that, and I don't I don't feel like I'm a victim of anything really other than a two-tier justice system, and that's not good. We can't have this. But you can't. And the American people are, after COVID and the lockdowns and the riots. Cops getting killed, federal buildings being burned, all these things going on, and there's like no consequences to that behavior. Of course, patriotic, red-blooded Americans are going to feel like we're losing our country. You're going to get concerned. You're not going to not have a reaction from people about that. And
yeah, it was crazy. It was a crazy time. I myself, I went to a lot of anti-lockdown protests and everything because it was just so crazy.
Yeah,
Such a crazy time period.
Our entire species house arrest for something that's I'm not, wasn't a violent weapon attack, but the response absolutely devastated small business and worst of all, the not allowing people to go and worship, even though I wasn't a Christian, and that made me angry. That's a fundamental First Amendment right. So,
yeah, like they were busting people for going to church services in their cars over here in New Jersey, so it's not surprising.
That's evil, and I don't care if it's if somebody's going to mosque or synagogue or whatever. That it's not right. We don't. That's not what this. That's not what the country's about. It's just. It was horrible, and it was. To say government overreach, it's an understatement. We can never allow. I don't care what happens. That no matter how bad it is, our Bill of Rights don't get erased.
Yep.
We got to defend that because, authoritarianism. And like I said before, I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm still concerned because I don't like all of this. It feels a little empire-ish, and it feels like there's still all these wars and stuff that are going on. It's not. it's concerning, to put it that way.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is.
That's the other thing, when I was buying into the neocon narrative a long time ago, I was angry, which is what they want whenever there's a false flag of any kind and the people don't realize it. So I was off about 9/11, and later on I woke up to have serious questions about that. But, that part of me changed a really long time ago. And all wars are banker wars, all of it. And it's just, I have my concerns here, but I am grateful, absolutely grateful for the pardon and for the support. I'm sorry that my bandmates got hurt through this, and people that I've worked with. I know the pressure was enormous, and at the same time, they know who I am. Always known.
Yeah.
That's not something that, the core principles that I hold in the love for the Republic is unwavering. That's not going to change.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you on all of that.
And no one's perfect.
We all make mistakes, but the concern is still real. The concern for our country is still very real. There's still so much going on, and so much went on with the last administration.
Yeah.
And, of course, being an American guy,
I wanted to say this, and
America, but I'm not like what happens in here has a great effect on the rest of the world as well. And so I am concerned about people all over the world, but of course, from a political standpoint, this is my country, so it's got to be first. We got to start doing things that take care of our own people. We've been gutted for decades, and I've watched it. I'm old enough to remember when there were factories, and when the little small town that my family, both sides of my family had a big part in building, and mostly a ghost town now, and it has been a long time, because all of the all the big box stores, whether it's Walmart, whatever, all the drug chains. My dad was a pharmacist, and my grandfather started that pharmacy, and it was a family thing. And all of these buildings had businesses. I mean, everybody supported each other. There was a shoe store, there was a clothing store, there was a place to get paint and hardware, everything you needed, a jeweler, the whole thing, all in this little tiny burg that had 5,000 people back in the day, and it worked. And but globalism and these the corporatocracy really took over, and it's just, you don't have it. It's decimated small town America, and it's a sad thing, I mean, and there's no. I think the course that we're on is the right thing to do, even though it's going to be rough as we go through a transition. I don't see any other way. I mean, the thing with tariffs is that is what drove the economic engine of the country until 1913. What else happened that year? Federal Reserve, income tax. So this is, I'm very optimistic about that part of it, but it's going to be rough until that adjustment's made. But I would rather pay a little bit more personally for a television or some other item than having my labor taxed.
Yes.
That's just horrible. I mean, and when you think about Social Security, my mother just died 3 weeks ago today, and it's always bothered.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Sorry to hear that. That sucks.
Yeah, thank you. It does. It was tough. It's tough. My dad died in 2006, and it hits a little different when it's your mom. I mean, it was tough. That was my dad was he was my hero, and I loved him, and he was my best man at my wedding, and it was difficult, but yeah, something different about a mom. So, but I think about all of the older people that paid into this system, and it's by the time they start getting the benefit from it, it's been inflated to where the purchasing power is a joke.
Yep.
And then they tax you on top of it. It's like a double. It's horrible. It's wicked, and there is no justification for us to allow a system like this to continue, because it is completely unjust. Ever since this country got hijacked by the private Federal Reserve, it has been nothing but, they want to call it the progressive era. I'm sorry, I don't see people getting poorer and things being more difficult as anything close to progressive. It's not progress. It's just
it's not.
It's inverse world.
No.
Everything they tell us, it's the opposite of what's actually happening. So I just think we gotta, I hope that it's going to go the way that I think that it probably will, but I think it's going to get bumpy, and people just have to, hopefully have been getting prepared for, whether it's storable food and things like that. I'm talking obviously spiritually prepared. That's one thing that's really important. It's the most important. But in terms of in the world stuff, having some storable food and water, and just be ready to ride the storm out, because it's going to get bumpier.
I just wanted to say that, when all this happened with January 6th and everything, there were a lot of people that wanted to jump on the John Schaffer hate train, right? And I stayed silent through all this, and I just wanted to say that, I, for one, respect what you've done, even though, I know you say you regret doing it and everything, but I felt like somebody should stand up for this country, and being a patriot myself and loving this country and a big history buff myself. I have read a lot of things myself and understand a lot of the stuff, what you're talking about. And someday I'd love to pick your brain on some of this stuff, because some of this, you're just so knowledgeable when it comes to all of this stuff. And, but I just wanted to say that, I couldn't support you in a way like Rose has and everything, but I've always stuck by you. And when people would run your name into the mud or whatever, and I was like, hey, that's not fair. John stood up for what he believed in, whether, time comes on, and if he regrets it, that's him, and it's his choice or whatever. But your music and everything has done so much for me in my life. And, I've, I just wanted to say that I support you, and whatever you decide to do, from here on out, you'll always have a fan and always have a supporter.
Well, thank you, man. I'm glad the music has helped in whatever way that it has. I don't know that, but I've heard that through the years from fans, and it's very humbling. And I don't regret standing up for the country. I regret that I know better, and I regret that it hurt people that I love, that it caused a tremendous amount of stress. Those are my regrets. Being there, it was a protest that turned into a riot, and people were angry. But I still, even if I look at I didn't see that stuff. I didn't see people smashing the doors in. I saw it on video later. I don't know what exactly happened, other than also seeing a whole sea of people out there, because there were supposed to be speakers there at some area. There was a permit. There was a stage that was going to be set up. I think General Flynn was going to speak there. I can't remember the speakers, but I know that was what we were all being told. And I don't know if that was just part of the bait, but I'm angry at myself I know better. But I know, because I know the games and how dirty they play. I've been studying this for a while, but it was a stupid decision. It wasn't a stupid decision to go and stand up and protest. That's our fundamental First Amendment right. That's part of it. But to allow myself to get caught up into that impulsive, emotional, reactionary behavior it didn't serve any good. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it didn't help the cause. It actually gave them more fuel to demonize peaceful, freedom-loving people that are dedicated Americans. And I think that actually was part of the plan. I think we're going to find this stuff out. Hopefully at a big scale. There's people that have propensity to research have already seen the evidence. But I witnessed some vandalism. That's it. I didn't see the things that they were that they were pumping out on TV, which I didn't actually see until after I got out anyway. Because
someone in the industry told me that some of, I'm not like, I don't want to name names, but they work and do stuff with like Fox News, and they told me that some of that footage that they put out, I don't know, I think it might have been CNN or something, was edited by like an Oscar award winning director or something, or a producer or something like that. So and I believe him because he's seen a lot. So like I'm not saying that stuff didn't happen, but maybe the way they clipped it together wasn't really fair.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that went on, at least at a minimum, some crafty editing, and leaving really important stuff out. Like there is footage. Yeah. There is footage out there, body cam footage that shows a sea of very peaceful people. They had their flags. But there wasn't nobody was throwing stuff. But then you see the cops start to throw flashbangs into the crowd.
Yeah.
And a guy ordering them to do that, going down the line. And so they were provoked. I mean, people were.
Sure they were.
All that stuff, I don't know, because like I said, I think even if I had a model of the Capitol, I don't know if I could tell you where I went up. I know if it had the scaffolding set up, then I would be able to at least say that's where the stairway was. But
sure,
just a like flow of energy that was heading that way, and I was in it. And but a lot of shady things started happening before President Trump even finished speaking, and so and I'm not saying there weren't any bad actors there, or guys that were so angry to the point that they were ready to do something. Also,
yeah,
very possible. I mean, it's a combination. But what I do know is that I saw President Trump say on Air Force One a few weeks back, he was may have been going to the border or something, and one of these snarky reporters said, you're going to praise law enforcement, but yet you just pardoned 1,600 people for attacking law enforcement. And he said, no, the government attacked them. So he's aware, and I think this whole group is aware of the things that went on. He gets briefed on everything, and even did when he wasn't in office. So
yeah,
I think he's aware, and I do think we'll see some justice. What I thought was very interesting, when they brought a file with some photographs, the only person that I identified was the police officer that opened the door. So that also made me wonder, like, it didn't hit me until after I was out, like, why did they show me that photo unless maybe there's some counter investigation going on? It never occurred to me until at one point, it was a few months after I was out. I'm like, and then at some point I finally had remembered to tell my attorney that, and they were both like, Mark and Andy both were, yeah, that's kind of strange.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. This is a question somebody actually, a friend of mine asked me to ask you. What would you have to say to your detractors and former fans who have been critical throughout all of this?
I understand. That's all I can say. I mean, I think if they're open to seeing alternative information, they may have a different opinion. And if they're not, that's their right to.
Sure.
I believe in free speech. I don't, I've never been one to censor haters off of, back when I don't have any control over any of the iStir stuff, because I got canceled and everything. And I don't care. I mean, I really don't care. And I don't care about the obviously all that Facebook stuff. I never used it except for the purposes of the band. Like, I never did anything on it, but I have no access now to it. Decky does, the webmaster over in Macedonia, but he's the only one, and he can't even make any changes. So I haven't cared enough to try to chase that with Facebook, or to try to get my account back or whatever, because it doesn't matter. I mean, the band is not active, and I mean, I've devoted my life to this brand that I created, and that a lot of great people helped contribute to the awesomeness that it was. But I don't want it to like die off in obscurity. But I also don't want to be involved in social media platforms that don't support free speech. So I would rather point people to X. I would rather point people to Rumble. At least for now, they're more free than the others. And I mean, what Facebook did during COVID, and with all the censorship, and without allowing alternate views of this, and other expert real doctors that had different opinions, but censoring them, somebody needs to go to prison for that, because this is one of the biggest crimes against humanity in the history of the world. And I'm never going to stop speaking out about it. You know, I'm not going to do, when I said in the interview with Levi, after he sent it to me, I was like, yeah, this may get me in more trouble in the future. I was merely talking about being a Christian, because Christians throughout history have been persecuted, and that's the trouble I'm willing to face. But I'm not going to go out and start trouble. I'm not going to do anything stupid. That's not what I was saying. And I thought about it later. I'm like, probably take that the wrong way. But you know, that's actually what I meant. And I'm never going to let this go, in terms of, like, they don't get a pass. We don't just sweep the last 5 years of brutal tyranny under the rug.
No, you can't.
I mean, if that happens, then it's over. Then because we've got to restore fair justice to the system. And until powerful people are held accountable, no American is going to be no informed American is going to be satisfied. That's got to happen. And
yeah, those big platforms that cooperated, and the media cooperating with the regime to suppress, you know, alternative voices and people that had medical accuracy and facts, they have blood on their hands. So when Mark Zuckerberg, geez, hey, pretty please, can I play in your pool? You know, it's like, no, dude, you cooperated with an anti-life agenda, and there are deaths because of lack of knowledge. You know, talk about "for my people die from lack of knowledge" is so true. And that's exactly what happened. People were railroaded into, you know, this entire lie. And it's getting more obvious every day, as now that people can speak a little bit more. How many countless lives were lost simply because there was no additional information that people could discern and use in their judgment. They just kept getting hammered from every side with, you know, you're going to kill grandma, and, you know, you wear your mask, and all this crazy crap that we knew was BS at the time. You know, people in the medical field, and yet so many went along with it, partly because of money, partly because of coercion, you know, and that, like you said, John, we can't let it go. You know, there is no justice here.
No,
and none of them have admitted to that.
It's not about revenge.
No.
It's about justice.
Justice. Yeah.
That's one of the big things about healing our country. There's got to be that, because the more people obviously are aware of what went on now than at the time, because it was a powerful level of propaganda. I mean, I knew it immediately that it was because like I said, I read their books, read their white papers. I knew it was just a matter of time.
Yeah.
Really, even though when it happened, I was still like, man, it's on. This is it. You know, it was.
Yep.
It was creepy. I was out in Sedona, Arizona, with my daughter on her spring break. We went out there to hike a little bit, and I got sick in the end of 2019 before anybody was talking about it in the States. I was traveling internationally a lot, and And it was probably the sickest I've ever been. So whatever the bioweapon was, I may have had it. And even if like I never got tested until I was locked up. I never put a diaper on my face until I was locked up. Never.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't refuse to. So that I didn't buy into any of that stuff. But I mean, I trust God gave us amazing immune system. So I mean, I was sick and it was brutal for about a week, and then I was good. And then it started when I was out there in March. I had like a second round of it, and maybe January or February, because I was still like winded and stuff when my daughter and I were hiking. And
Wow.
But then that's when they shut everything down while we were out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, this is dark. And then fast forward a little bit later, I ended up buying a 39-foot RV, and my girlfriend and I went out west, and it was so crazy going through the states that were like, I wanted to go to South Dakota because she was the best governor through it all. I don't care what anybody says. Fox and all these people push DeSantis, and he's great, but he still went along with it for a while. Kristi Noem didn't at all. She never shut anything down. She just, the only thing they did, I think they made the restaurant workers, they may have had to wear masks, but that was all. Otherwise, you go in, everything, it just felt like America again. But going through Illinois and through Minnesota and through some of these other states, it was like, man, this is tyranny. You could feel the darkness. It was crazy. And you get into South Dakota and Wyoming and Montana, and it's like, all right, especially South Dakota, it felt like America.
That sounds great. It was terrible here in New Jersey. They were really cracking down on everything. My friend Tiffany and I used to just go in the store without masks on. And like, I remember she went to Party City, and they were like, both of us did. She needed to pick up, party supplies for her kid's birthday party. And they were like following us around, yelling at us about not having a mask on. We just ignored them. And, I was at a lot of the, Capitol stuff, like, in New Jersey, we went to the Capitol when they started locking everybody down. And it was funny because it was mostly it was a movement led by mostly women, because all the guys were just not into doing it over here in Jersey. They all thought we were weird, but we were like holding up signs like that first week and kept going out there. We supported a gym over here.
Is that the one that made national news?
Yeah,
that dude was awesome, man. I was like, I remember seeing when it was going down, I'm like, that's proper Americana right there, because all it takes, it's our acquiescence that allows them to get away with all this crap. It's just, all we got to do is just say, no, you work for us, not the other way around.
Yeah, I lost a lot of friends and stuff because people just didn't want to have anything to do with somebody that didn't want to take these regulations seriously. So that's why I ended up at a lot of those protests, because I was looking for new people that were like-minded that I could connect with. And
yeah, and John, I think you're when you were on with Levi, you mentioned how you discovered who people really were.
Yeah,
that you had one impression of that you worked with or were friends with, and then when all this crazy stuff started happening, especially after January 6th, it's almost like the masks came off,
Yeah, but
year of whatever camaraderie and that type of thing.
To be fair, though, like, it's cancel culture is brutal, and some people just cave to it because and that's where I don't care if people like me. I really don't. Like, it's never been a thing. I'm not here to make friends. I'm fortunate and blessed that I have a lot of friends, but that's not my mission. My mission up until recently was to write songs that were real and to try to, I don't know, it was my release. It was just something I had to do. I can't explain it. It was a very powerful motivation, obviously, for me to do what I did from being a teenager all the way through. There was something there. I've never been afraid to be my authentic self when it comes to the press. I don't care if I offend people. I don't. Like, I don't care if there's, and I appreciate that people have the right. That's fine. We don't have to agree on things. And I don't expect everybody to share my worldview. And I know they don't, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to be bullied into, changing my views or the core of who I am. Like, that's because of a group of people. It's not going to happen. It's not an option. We can't allow that to happen.
No, we can't. We can't.
That's the First Amendment. I mean, everybody has a voice. Everybody can say what they believe. I was there. That's the funny thing about a lot of those people don't understand. I was standing for them too. It wasn't for me. It is never about me. It's the whole principle is, that First Amendment, the point is to stand up rigorously for the people that you disagree with, so that they have the right to say the things that you disagree with. That's the whole point. It's not, I don't expect to push my morals onto somebody else in a forceful way, but I do expect to be able to have mine. They're mine. And I'm allowed to speak. And I just respect everybody's right to that. And I think it's really important. I think if we start going down this road, I don't want to see a civil war in this country. That's the last thing. I've studied the Civil War from the 1860s enough to know that's a disaster. That's a nightmare. And people talk about this like it's going to be that's what we need to have. No, it is not.
Ew.
We need to have a discussion. We need to come back to reason. We need to speak to each other. We can't go down that road. For one thing, the division is off the hook. It's 1,000 times worse than it was in the 1860s.
Yeah, we are divided.
Households are divided. Families are divided. The neighborhoods are divided. Towns, cities. You're not going to be able to find some border that you can hide behind. It would complete hell on earth, and we don't want that. We need to have open and honest discussion. All of this lying and all of the gaslighting and all this crap has to end, and it's ending. I mean, this isn't going to happen overnight, but the truth prevails. It will ultimately, even if it takes a century. It's going. At some point, it's going to come out, and I think we're on the cusp of some very big information drops that are going to blow people away. We're seeing it drip, drip, drip. It's been happening a lot, and eventually there's going to be a flood.
One of the things I wanted to say was like this whole thing with like taking the statues down and all this stuff that they've been doing here lately. And, I'm sitting here thinking like, okay, being from South Carolina myself, this state and this whole thing is, it's deep in, Confederate history and everything. But the thing that gets me is like, you want to sit here and you want to take statues down of like people like Robert E. Lee and all this stuff. And me being part Native American in my family, that I have that, but yet you don't go over here and take General Custer's statue down for the things that he done. Like, I mean, if you're gonna do, I don't person, why aren't you doing it all? That's how I look at it. Yeah,
you're cutting out a lot, but I know what you're saying, and I think that whole move is to erase those parts of our history. I mean, going after the founders, which they've been under attack forever, from an academic standpoint. And because if the people understood their heritage and what it was really about, they might do it again. And the powers that be don't want that. They don't want you to know. They don't want you to know what the founding fathers, who were very unperfect people, as we all are, but still brilliant.
Yep.
And they fought, they debated and argued and were very passionate about, and they just came up with something that is pretty special. And if they're able to erase those things, then they're erasing history, and that's obviously very dangerous. I mean, it just gives you the reason to further repeat it, which we're doing anyway. I mean, we always do it. So at the end, maybe it doesn't matter if the statues go away, because it seems like they don't learn. But, to me, it matters. I mean, when I heard that, it was obviously during all this stuff that there was a plan to go and they were going to attack Gettysburg. I was ready to get in my car and go. Like, no, but there were already people like on the front lines over there that were gonna defend that because, that's good. But it shouldn't be a thing. We have all of human, they've made the American people out to be, they've demonized everything about it. And there are dark spots in the history, but you got to look a little bit deeper. Every history is dark because it's human. The same behaviors going over and over. I mean, I hate slavery. I hate it. I don't want anybody to be enslaved. And you think we don't have slaves now? Check your wallet. If you have Federal Reserve notes in there, you're a slave.
Oh, I know.
You're a different kind of slave. You're not in chains, but you are a slave to a completely corrupt, fraudulent Ponzi scheme of a financial system. That's a fact. And then you've got actual slavery going on around the planet, and you've got human trafficking and child trafficking and all kinds of horrible stuff. So, we're supposed to be the light in the world that defends those people and stands up. And I'm sadly, and it breaks my heart, I think we've become sick, like very, very sick, to a point where there shouldn't even be a market in this country for that kind of garbage. But there is, and
Yep.
But we cannot have them erase our future or our past. We can't allow that. We need to acknowledge the bad parts, and we need to be grateful and thankful for the good stuff. And there's a lot of good stuff. The American people are so charitable. And believe me, there's a big difference between the American people and the corporate government. That's a different thing. But the American people themselves, in general, are very, very charitable and giving and, loving in general. We're human beings. But we've done a lot of good things. We've done a lot of bad things. Our government has done a lot of bad things.
John, if you could go back in time and see any event in U.S. history, what would you pick?
I would probably want to go back to like 1775, so I could be there for 1776.
That's a good one.
That's been
100%.
That's been like,
Nice.
I've always thought that for years. If I could time travel, that would be, when we're talking about American history, that would probably be when I would love to go back to. Probably me romanticizing it. I'm sure it was brutal, but there's something.
Yeah.
I'm a descendant of Commodore John Barry, so that time period also excites me. Like, it's cool.
Cool.
I was saying, listening to Glorious Burden, which is like my second favorite Iced Earth album, and watching the Gettysburg DVD got me on a quest to go to Gettysburg. And I finally got to go, and I loved it because actually the funny thing about it is, like, living in South Carolina, living where I live, I'm probably maybe an hour and a half from like Camden, South Carolina, which has an American Revolutionary War part. Yep. And they have the house that Cornwallis stayed in during the American Revolution that he used during that. And they also filmed some of the movie The Patriot there. And so it's pretty nice. And so I was going to say, if you're ever in South Carolina, I don't know if you've ever been, but, it'd be a great place to go check out.
I haven't been there, but I'm just so happy that Cornwallis got his ass kicked.
Yeah. Yep.
Beautiful thing.
Well, one thing I did want to ask, is there any chance in the future of the Sons of Liberty stuff like being released on vinyl?
Yes.
Perfect question.
Okay.
Best question.
Nice.
Yeah. Stay tuned for that. Spirit of the Times will be physical too for the first time. We're actually working on the cover now. It's going to be pretty badass, and my plan is to do a double.
Oh, okay.
Also, we're planning on doing actual new drum recording, so it's a real drummer. So that's going to take the production up several notches because it was raw. It was raw. I mean, I think Spirit of the Times was a little better in terms of production and stuff, but they'll make a nice difference. So that's in the works. I want to have it done.
Nice.
Hopefully in this calendar year, I hope, and we can get it out because I have another something brewing for the 250th anniversary of this country.
Nice. That's really
Nice.
cool.
That'd be cool.
I remember when I met Brent a couple of years back, I was talking to him about Sons of Liberty and he was like, it's a drum machine. He was he was sad. But I'm sure he'll be happy when that you'll be putting any kind of real drums on that. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, well, I mean, he wasn't a part of it, but he did have the opportunity to play on Spirit of the Times, and he didn't show up prepared, so we just programmed it.
Oh man.
Nah.
Well, Brent loves you. He
I love Brent too.
Yeah, he loves you.
But that's
It happens.
that's what happened.
I'm guilty of showing up unprepared plenty of times. So I can't.
Aren't we all?
Uh-huh. Me above all others.
Yep.
John, you've got a hell of a story. Do you ever plan on writing an autobiography?
Man, I've been asked that a lot. I don't have a plan. And believe me, people have been in my ears about that a lot over these last few years, and I wouldn't even know where to start, dude. Like I don't know, but it's probably going to happen. It's been quite a journey, my life. So I don't want to put out a book that's like this thick,
I would love that. Yes.
But I don't know where to start. So many different things that you could key in on, and it would be, it'll come if it's supposed to. It'll come, but I have no plans on that right now.
Put out a book that big, you'd be giving Stephen King a run for his money.
So what made you do the narrative soundscape? Was that just for the book, or was that something that like you had in mind for a while?
It was for the book. The plan was, before everything went sideways, was that was sort of a test run. The book was too, because I wanted to learn how to self-publish, because I was going to start doing graphic novels and tying in all these different characters throughout the Something Wicked universe. And, the Queen from Dark Side of Her Majesty and Storm Rider, and everybody was going to have a role in the story. And so I wanted to do something different and have like a spoken word thing with the release of each graphic novel. So we were experimenting to do that with the book, but I kind of envisioned it like to do an audio book of the Something Wicked story and make it sort of creepy, like if I was telling the story, if we were around a campfire and I'm telling the story, but then having that soundtrack, the soundscape that would be familiar to the fans. So like, when certain songs or certain parts of the story would play, there would be these recurring melodies that people would go, oh, that's from this song. Sort of like Star Wars, that came, Darth Vader had his theme and the different characters, and you have these different things. And that was the idea that I was going to try to build on. It was just an idea. I don't feel moved to do that now. So I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Not sure if I will. But it was really an exercise in learning how to self-publish and getting ready and getting different artists together to do everything like that. Because I was planning on doing more limited studio work and touring, and to go out and do the comic book conventions and promote all of the things that I've been involved with through my career, and also start pushing the Wicked Tales publishing, of the books that we were planning on doing. But now I don't.
They would have made like a great comic book series or something, you know?
Oh, that would have been awesome.
Plan because it's a much bigger story than what's exposed to the audience so far. And I had a lot of cool ideas, but I just don't. I feel like I don't know what the next steps are going to be, but I'll know when the time's right.
You know, I really like that spoken word version of Democide, but it's not digital, and like I really I miss it. Like I want to put it on in my car, but I can only listen to that on vinyl.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I gotta. I should probably put that up on DistroKid.
Yeah, that it's really cool. I like, obviously with your permission, whenever my tribute band gets back together, I wanted to like maybe open up with like some of the spoken word and then go right into the song or something, you know. It's so cool. It's just like that's one of my favorite narrative soundscapes. It's
we definitely got to get that going. we need
You don't need my permission, Rose. You could do whatever you want. Like that's not.
Thank you.
It's not a deal. But yeah. I actually there was a plan at one point because that was a record store day exclusive kind of thing, and I think I just forgot because I feel like I had to wait a year. There was some kind of agreement like that I didn't have to wait a year before I.
Sure.
Well, I didn't have to actually because the vinyl itself was the exclusive, but I think I made that decision in my mind that I'll just wait a year so that it's exclusive to the picture disc and then, get it out there. So, yeah, thanks for reminding me.
Anytime.
Work on getting that up at some point.
I don't know if you're aware of this, but you have a couple fans that like have major disabilities, and they like some of them have reached out to me, and they're like extremely grateful to you, and they just have all of these different stories. One of my blind friends was telling me a story about how you familiarized him with how things were going from CD to digital and everything, and he's like eternally grateful for that. And there's a couple of other people who are on like the spectrum and stuff, and they absolutely love the Something Wicked album, especially because they've always felt different. And a couple of them asked me to tell you that, so I just really wanted to tell you that. And two of them asked me if you're a dog or a cat person. So
always been a dog person, but I have a cat for the first time in my life. And he was a little rescue kitty that I got while I was in Florida. It was such a trip. I never had any experience with cats. My girlfriend had cats, and I like animals. So I wasn't a cat fan when I was younger because I had an allergy. But after being around hers, apparently I grew out of that at some point.
Nice.
But I was always a dog guy, and I still am a dog guy. But dogs, definitely require a lot of attention. And cats do, but now they're definitely more
different. It's different.
And once I got divorced and that homestead structure wasn't there, like it was, and we were traveling like crazy during that time, so it's still, even at this point, like I would love to have a dog, but I'm like, I don't know what God's got planned for me, but I have a feeling there's going to be some travel involved.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. I gave up my dog to some, I had him for quite a few years, but then when I started traveling and doing more music stuff, I gave the dog up to my friend Tiffany. We're still able to visit and everything. So, but he just recently passed away, but we were able to visit, up until he did. And it was a nice transition because, if you're running around all the time, it's not fair to the dog, even though, so I get it. And that's why I have cats now. They require a little bit less, but they're
a lot more independent.
Yeah.
And he's super cool, man. I'll tell you what, I've never seen that. And like I said, I have no history or no knowledge of cats. But this dude plays fetch, and He only will play with these little springy plastic things from Amazon. That's it. He doesn't care about any other toy, anything. He doesn't care. But he plays fetch and he brings it right back and drops it, and then it's like a cat that plays fetch. Wow, super cool.
I had to just let my cat back inside because he was hanging out in the. Let me close the door. It's getting cold out. Sorry.
Oh, nice.
Speaking of animals.
That's very cute, Daria.
That's John's dog, Baron.
Oh,
Yep.
He gave him to me in 2010
nice.
when I think it was a world tour. I can't remember, but I think you were gone for like a long time. And
Well, Mike had him and Duke for
oh, that's right. That's right.
time because we weren't even living in the country, and so Mike took care of him, and then Duke got in and attacked his daughter's chickens and rabbits. That was a bad thing. He said, "Hey, the dog's got to go."
Wow, that's terrible.
Yeah, Baron was such a cool little dude. He was almost 16 when he passed away.
wow. That's a
That's
well
a good
taken
age.
care of dog.
That's
Oh,
a
yeah.
good age.
Yeah. He's a good boy.
Yeah, he was a good little psycho, a little bit.
Yeah. He'd bite first and ask questions later to other animals, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay.
He'd act like nothing's going on, and then he'd just like try to take a chunk out of him.
Yeah,
Dog walking was an adventure.
he didn't get along with other dogs or animals, period. I mean, when he was little and we lived in the country, he started going after like a horse. I'm like, dude, you're not going to win this. And, but he didn't, people, he was fine, but other animals.
Yeah. He slowed down a little in his old age, though.
Yeah, well, we all do.
Oh, yeah, that's a fact.
We sure do.
I'm living that every day.
Yeah.
Um,
I got a Chihuahua. They always think they're bigger than they are.
oh no.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to have one too, man. His name was Gomez.
Nice.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah. Gomez actually attacked Baron here at the house. He laid in wait and pounced on Baron when he walked by, and Baron just like looked at him like, what? It was hilarious.
That's so funny. Yeah, they remember when what was it? Carlos tried to attack me, Dave.
Yeah, that's
You just
Zoe.
put him over
She
for
was Baron's sidekick, baby sister.
Oh,
She's
That's
the one that
very
passed
cute.
away a couple of years ago from heart and lung failure. Broke my heart again. But yeah, she was a sweetheart.
Worst part of having a pet is letting them go.
Yeah.
It hurts.
Yeah,
John, I think you're the one that told me. It's like, yeah, they're a big part of our lives, but we're their whole life.
Yeah.
And so from the dog's perspective, that's something important to remember.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's a question that I'm sure I know the answer to. What do you think of AI artwork and AI music?
not a fan.
Yeah.
And I
It's kind of creepy.
I think it's dangerous in general, especially
Yep.
in the hands of the dark side. It's
Oh,
what's his name or her name?
His name is Carlos.
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 Oh!
¿Qué pasa, Carlos?
it's all right.
Hola, Senor Juan.
Yeah.
That's so
So,
cute.
yeah, I don't like the AI thing at all. I think it's just
Make some chalupa commercials.
more of the whole dehumanization of everything, and music and art it's a gift from God, and they're cutting that off too, and you can just tell a robot to do that.
Yeah, you can literally type in like lyrics.
Well, the bad thing is this will be introduced, and I know guys that are using it already for art designs and at least
They're
getting
not good.
started. I just don't like it. I don't like it. And the kids at some point, it will be the thing to where there will be a generation that doesn't grow up with actual humans doing music if we stay on this. It'll be, and then this whole transhumanist agenda is very concerning.
Yeah, it is. It
Yep.
is. It absolutely is.
100%.
Well, good to know you'd never use AI to create anything.
No way.
Mm-mm.
No way. It's not an option.
Daria, I want to tell you I love your shirt.
It's the SOL special, Liberty or
Yeah,
Death.
that's so cool. That is so
Yeah.
cool.
And these are still, I mean, gosh, I've had this for like 15 years or something, and it's still one of my warmest hoodies. They were really made well.
Yeah, they were.
I really like the basketball shorts. They're like really made.
Oh
well.
yeah,
Everything's
I
really
love
made
those
well.
basketball shorts. When it
I
gets
have-
warm enough to wear them again.
No.
Yeah, it's starting to get there.
Yeah.
They're good for around the house for
Oh,
sure.
it's already
Oh,
been
yeah.
blazing down here.
Mhm.
Yeah, won't be long.
Oh my god, I know.
Well, it keeps going back from like wanting to be spring to back to winter to spring to back to winter. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah. And we're sitting where we are right now. We're sitting right on the front, so it's been continuous chilly rain every day and with no end in sight. I don't know why this planet is doing this right now, but it's definitely stress testing my new roof on my house.
Well, that stinks.
Yeah.
It's not the planet doing it. You know exactly why.
Oh, yeah, no, you can literally
Oh, no.
go to
Yeah.
like College of
No.
DuPage satellite and radar, and you can pull up the next rad radars, and you can see when the storms start blowing up in your area. You can all of a sudden see the next rad radar start to really blast more energy into the atmosphere and make it even worse. It's literally, I don't know how anybody could even ignore that. You know.
A lot of people do though.
Yeah, that's why they believe
Most
that,
people do.
6 feet away from each other was gonna save grandma. You know,
You know what
same,
bummed me
same
out
mindset.
when I had to go to Florida? Some states are moving to ban chemtrails and stuff, and I don't know how they're going to really be able to police that without sending their state guard in. But Tennessee was the first, and I'm driving through Tennessee, and there's chemtrails everywhere. I'm like, man, come on! It was when I was going down to because when things happened with Mom, it happened fast, and I
Yeah,
had to. My nephew said, "You need to get down here," so I got in and drove 16 hours straight to the hospital. And so, yeah, but it would bum me out when I saw the chemtrails in Tennessee. I was like, man.
Wow.
you know that old saying that they could even screw up a sunny day. Yes, they can, and they do.
John, do you still pick up the guitar from time to time?
No,
No.
I started to in Florida for a little bit, and then it just went away. So, but once I feel it'll probably take me a good 2 months of woodshedding to get my chops back, and
Sure.
that's not that long. And
No.
I want to have like a pretty clear, concise mission. I don't really love playing the guitar. I never have. It's just a tool. So it's like in the beginning when I was a teenager, yeah, I was like more into it. But as it turned into what it turned into, it got the least amount of my attention, and because it's a business, and it was a global business, and there was a lot of stuff to deal with, and it was a tool.
Yeah, sure.
What the guitar is, it's like a hammer to a carpenter. It's not, there's guys that really love guitar, and I know a bunch of them, but I'm just not one of them. It was a tool for the vision and for the songs to make it a reality. It wasn't.
Oh,
We lost John.
We lost him. Oh, well, that stinks.
Uh-oh.
well,
That might
maybe-
be on my end. I don't know.
I don't know. Probably not.
What happened?
Oh, yeah.
Hang on.
There, he's back.
It's okay.
Okay. Yep.
Oh, there he is.
Somebody tried to call me. It was Jake. So
Nice.
Wow.
Oh.
So I don't know.
That's great. Yeah, no, it makes sense. That happens when
Ask him,
someone
did you
calls.
guys hear that? Because I have eruption is his his ringtone for me.
Oh,
So I didn't know if you could hear it when it rang, but all of a sudden,
Yeah, it went down.
Rip
Oh,
it.
that might be why your video cut out if he
No.
was calling you.
Yeah, someone was calling him, so the video cut out. Yeah.
that's weird.
Yeah.
No, it's not weird, Dave. It happens. That's the iPhone for you. We were just talking about whether you pick the guitar up or not. And, basically you were just saying that, you haven't picked it up. It's more of a tool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where you left off.
Yeah. I think it'll, like, when the time's right, I will.
Well, you should never rush anything like that.
Nice.
It's got to be natural.
Yeah, it's not a hobby. It's not a thing that like I necessarily enjoy. It's just, like I said, it's a tool. So when it's time to do the work, I'll pick the tool back up and do the work.
Gotcha.
Do you have a favorite book in the Bible?
Oh man, depends on where my head's at. But I can say that Romans 8:28 through 30 has been probably the one that I've leaned on the most in these times. But there's a lot of it, but I can't say that I have a favorite one, because they all have different ways of hitting you depending on where you're at that particular moment. Just that's what's so powerful about it. I love the gospel. I love the four, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So there's certain verses that will speak to me differently depending on my mood or my emotional state or whatever I'm feeling at the time. Or sometimes it's God's word is amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And even through whatever potential things have been played around with, the message is there, gets through.
Yep, 100%.
So,
and there's so many different layers of meanings that things sink in. It's like when you watch a really great movie you love like multiple times, and every time you see it, you pick up something else, and it's even more so with the Bible, especially in the context of the Old Testament, prefiguring the new, and the new revealing the old. It's pretty mind blowing, I think.
Yep, for sure.
Yep.
Everything to Jesus, all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All Jesus.
I was saying that me and some friends of mine actually do a Bible stream. We do a Bible discussion live stream on YouTube and everything. We'll go in and we'll read scripture and kind of talk about it and everything. And so it's there's something I've been doing here and there, and it helps, man. And it's because I like to hear different people's perspective of how they'll read something and they'll say, well, this is what it means to me, or this is how I look at it, or how I take it, and then everybody just kinds of discuss it and everything, and it's kind of opened my eyes up a lot to scripture and everything, and I just think that you don't see a lot of stuff like that online anymore, and I think there's a lot more people that should do stuff like that.
Yeah, and I don't know. I've found a lot of great stuff that people have, not necessarily like a discussion group, but there's just a lot of great content out there on YouTube for. I know I really like Jonathan Cahn, and I love watching his sermons. He's a Messianic Jew, and the dude's really sharp. He's written some amazing books, actually, really good books. Pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
But there's a lot out there. It's pretty cool because like I said when I was talking to Levi, it's like our operator's manual, and it's not just how to survive, but actually how to thrive. And I think the church in general, especially the big denominations, they've been their own worst enemy. I mean, in terms of driving people away, it hasn't been good. I mean, the decline has been down. I've seen that all through my life. You go to Europe and they've got all these amazing cathedrals and churches that are hundreds and hundreds of years old, and nobody goes, you know. And at some point, that's it's a cultural thing, but the church has done a really bad job at spreading the gospel of Jesus. You know what I mean? It's just been not been good. It's, you know, it's a Laodicean age. That's what we're in. It's pretty clear.
Did like any particular like incident turn you away from like the church when you were younger? You know, I guess this whole religious thing is like new, like kind of new for you, right? Like,
no, religion's not new for me. Religion is what I had a problem with. A relationship with Christ is new to me, and those are two very different. Yeah. So those are different things. But yeah, there was a lot of incidents, you know.
Sure.
In the school that I went to, there I can't say one in particular, but with the eyes of a Christian, I go back and say, hey, those guys were also sinners in a fallen state. They're human. But when you're young, you just get angry and react and judge and hold on to that. And I don't have those feelings anymore. It's just gone. That's one of the things that, besides the need for things, you know what I mean? Like material things really don't matter to me anymore. It doesn't, like, I used to be a big collector of whatever, comic books and military and books, and it's just stuff, you know. It's stuff that I don't have any. I just don't care about that. That's the when I was trying to explain how when you're full, it changes, and it's really hard to put into words. But you don't need those things. You don't need to, and there's no need to hold on to resentment and anger about things that have happened in the past, because everybody's a mess, you know.
Yeah.
There is no.
Do you feel like your relationship with Christ basically, you know, changed a lot of these things for you? This is having like a close relationship with him.
Oh, 100%. Without hesitation. Without that relationship, I would be in a very different mind. You know, there's no, not even a question. And it's growing. You know, my faith is getting stronger as the journey goes, because I'm breaking down the old me and stop leaning on my own understanding and like seeing it's just different. I don't know, man. And I'm a very stubborn person, you know, so it took a lot for me to submit and realize, you know, I can't do this on my own. Like I can't. I've been, you know, and even if it was all the things that I did and was able to endure up until J6, I'm still I'm now fully aware that God's hand was in it. It wasn't me. It wasn't my strength. It wasn't my power. It wasn't my, you know, the gifts and all the things are. It's God working. He's doing it through all of us, not me. It's not just me. It's all of us. It's just where I think will you accept it? And you know, most people won't. But that's the free will part. And I'm not going to ever be militant or pushing my faith on anybody, because I think it's counterproductive. All you can do is just try to inspire. And, you know, sometimes, you know what's super cool? So I got an email from Simon over in Germany, who is one of the SOL chapter guys way back in the day. And he wrote me an email. I think it was the day after the interview went live. And he said that he enjoyed watching it. And he said, but I got goosebumps. And he said, I didn't get goosebumps because of what you were saying. I got goosebumps because earlier in the day, a stranger, a really friendly guy, came up to him and his wife as they were walking down the street and said, "Who is Jesus?" And he said they had like a really amazing 10-minute conversation. And then the interview gets posted. I guess it was, I don't know what time it was actually posted, but obviously in Germany, it's going to be 6 hours later than we are. And so he wrote me and I said, "Simon, there are no coincidences. He's trying to get your attention." So, I said, if you have a Bible, just read the gospel, read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and just start there and see how it hits you. And he wrote me back and said, "I'm going to do it. And I'm even thinking about going to church on Sunday." I'm like, awesome.
Nice.
Whatever works for you. So that was cool because that's, like boom, boom. There's like two things. And a lot of people shrug those off just as coincidences or whatever. God works in mysterious ways. And there's a lot of times when there's things coming in and you're like, oh, no, that's that battle for discernment. And what they do is target you, and people can say I'm crazy. I don't care. But when you see what fluoride does to your pineal gland, when you see what the vaccines do, look how many vaccines kids are getting by the time they're 6 months old. I mean, it's evil. I don't care.
It is.
It's insane. It's insane how many that they give. It really is.
They are totally disconnecting or doing their damnedest to disconnect us from God.
You have to, like, I have friends who vaccinated their kids and friends who haven't, and the ones who haven't, those kids are growing up taller and more intelligent, like they're sharper minded. You could just tell the difference.
Yeah. I wish I knew the things I did. We did. It wasn't anything like it is when my daughter was born, but still, but we still went along with it because that's what the doctor said. And I think when this shakes out, the homeopathic people, the natural medicine people, chiropractors, acupuncture, people like that are going to be booming in business because once the truth of this all gets out, I can't see the medical system surviving the way it is. And then that's not to say there aren't some great doctors that have to do. Daria was a great surgeon.
Exactly.
There's definitely need for those people. But as a system, as the way that it is, their credibility is gone with so many people and with big pharma and everything is what should be because there's, really God gave us everything, man. I mean, that's why they go into the jungles in South America and Central America, and they get these things that people have been using that grow on the earth, and then they take them and they tweak them a little bit in the lab and copyright it, and now it becomes a product. And a lot of that goes on, but we have everything. They're just poisoning it all.
Exactly.
We need to still be able to go in and fix mechanical problems, but so much of it has to do with the poison in the foods and the water and the air and everything. It's these big corporations are making us sick.
Yeah, and a lot of people were really resistant to like RFK Jr.'s
of course
on those things. They were all freaking out about that. But I mean, why do we need all of these dyes in the foods, and why do we need all of these different ingredients? A lot of it doesn't make sense. It's all to kill everybody, and nobody's really, some people are waking up to it, but some people are just angry when they think about it. They just get angry. Oh, well, I want food dye. What are you talking about? Very strange. And there's natural ways to dye the food and make things, so there's no reason for a lot of the red dye number 40, especially. I was stunned. I love birch beer, but I had to go seeking out a birch beer without red dye 40. There's so many of them. Yeah. There's only one that doesn't have it, for instance. I don't love soda, but that's just, cane sugar. There's no reason for high fructose corn syrup. Even if you want a snack, there's absolutely no reason for it.
I switched over to seltzer water.
Yeah, pretty safe.
Better off.
Well, I couldn't figure out why they were putting red dye 40 in dog food. It's like I was reading these labels. I'm like, you got to be kidding.
To
I've
make
got
it
a friend
wide,
in
to make it look more
Tennessee who owns a
appealing.
healthy pet food store, and she gave me the 911 or 411, whatever that saying is, down low on pet food ingredients, and so I have to read labels for them as much as I do for my own food.
It's
Yeah,
so bizarre.
Cancer's big business. So
Yeah. Oh, and the vaccines.
And-
I'm convinced that the dog that died 2 years ago, she was only 10 and a half, Barron's little sister Zoe, that it was just from too many vaccines and weakening her immune system, and somehow she got heart failure and lung failure, and pretty quickly lost her, over the
That's
course
terrible.
of the summer. Yeah.
Wow.
And I thought, I'm doing everything right, but for a long time, but I was having to get them vaccinated so I could board them. And only after she got sick, I said, we're done. These dogs aren't getting anything except the state required rabies shot every 3 years. And that's it. So I think these two dogs have a better chance of surviving longer. But yeah, it was just heartbreaking. And you just realize how far down this profit, the whole model of income for physicians and veterinarians and everybody has been controlled by industry and government manipulating things and making these requirements at every level. And I don't know a way around it other than what the independent doctors, I saw one of them, that's one of my colleagues with the COVID stuff, saying that, more and more and more independent physicians are out there. And actually, they can thank Obama for that, because with Obamacare, that's where people started peeling off and doing direct pay and getting independent. Yeah. And then again, the boot came back down on everybody's neck with licensure and credentialing with COVID. And a lot of good doctors were shoved out the door that were actually saving lives because they wanted to get those numbers up on COVID deaths to get that $100,000 reimbursement or whatever it was from the government.
Yeah.
It was so diabolically sinister.
Yep.
It literally, like you were saying, Stephen King, I'm thinking more Dean Koontz. If you ever read any of his spine-chilling stuff, it is really scary. And one of them actually came pretty close to true. It was called the Jane Hawk series, and I was reading it in 2020 because, like John, in December of 2019, I got sick between Christmas and New Year's, and I woke up with my airway closing off from like these blown up tonsils I've had since I was 5, and I had to have surgery in January 2020. So when the whole COVID shutdown thing happened, I was like laying on the couch going, "This is bullshit,"
Oh, that sucks. I'm sorry, Daria.
Yeah, it was
that
brutal.
Sounds terrible.
It hurt bad, but I was so mad. And my brother was with me for a few days, just to make sure I didn't like choke to death, at night or something. Yeah. And then he went home. But it was such a blessing to have him here. But yeah, it was so I was feeling bad about all this stuff beginning in January of 2020 because, like John, it was like, oh, here it comes. And John's the one who pretty much tipped me off to all this. And we were talking about being ready since at least 2009, 2010. And, when he said, hey, read Jekyll Island, I did. Creature from Jekyll Island by Ed Griffin. And, normally I could burn through a 300-page book in a weekend. It took me 6 months to finish that book. I couldn't go through more than 10 pages at a time without just getting so mad. It's like, son of a... and you could then see it, like John said when he was interviewed with Levi. Once you start seeing these things, you can't unsee them. And then you recognize the pattern and the pattern of gaslighting, like you were saying, and the propaganda and the use of advertising and marketing to manipulate people's emotions, and, it's... Some people are, if they don't have a conscience, really, if you don't have a conscience, whether you have faith or not, but if you don't have some kind of moral compass that you can understand the difference between good and evil and not be indifferent to it, it's the indifferentism that is lethal.
Sure.
And, that's the part that is scary because we're seeing more of that. And, could be partly from, like we were talking about, fluoride and vaccines and the environment in general, the crappy food, the food dyes. Plus, I think that's all just sort of softening the target, like tenderizing the meat for the brainwashing in school and everything else, so that people don't even know there's another way to think and live,
Yeah.
And that's.
Yep.
Are we wearing the same shirt, Bill? What shirt are you wearing? No, it's different.
The reissue of the
It's different. Okay, no, it's
Yeah,
different. I have
reissue
that
of
one
Ice
too,
Earth.
though. Yeah, I have that one long sleeve.
Yep.
Actually, I have that one like as the sweatshirt. It's like my winter thing.
Which one do you got?
actually I have that one too.
This is one of the
Yep.
new ones. I got this for like his birthday or Christmas or something.
Showing
And
off.
then he's
There you
got
go.
the 30th
There you go.
anniversary. And I have that as a sweatshirt somewhere.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a cool one, Rose.
Yep.
That Emily Levique, from one of the artists in the book. Somehow, I don't even know how I got connected with her. I think I was putting out a notice on Instagram about artists, and she just has such a cool, like, her pencil work is really good, and she hadn't been doing art that long, so that girl's got I've never met her in person, but she was in early years of college back then, and she hadn't been drawing that long, and a lot of talent. So, and then Roy colored it. He did a great job.
Yeah, this one's such a beautiful design. I couldn't resist buying it. I was like,
What do
wow.
you have on, Dave? Is that the Crimson King?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hate
And,
these.
and let me tell you, John, after
Yep.
I read the Dark Tower series, that album just got so much better.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally.
Well, that's Hansi's world, not mine. I never read. He tried to get me. I did read like the Gunslinger and, but I tried to get into. No,
It's
wait
a-
a minute. I'm thinking of the Lord of the Rings stuff. I couldn't get into
Yeah.
that. So I did do a lot of Stephen King reading, but there was some point where he was cranking out so many books, I just couldn't.
Yeah, you can't keep up with them. Yeah.
But yeah, and it was also, there was like 70% of crap. Like, they're really great in the beginning, but what it turned into, I just couldn't. I couldn't.
I think everyone agrees the first half of the series is much better than the second
Yeah.
half.
Yeah, it kind of sputtered out.
Because he got into that car accident, he got hit by a car, and
Yeah.
he wanted to just finish the series
Yeah.
before time ran out.
Yeah.
So he kind of got the last 3 books in like right after back to back. So had that not have happened, who knows how much better it would have
I
been.
spent the whole year 2007 reading all those back to back.
Nice.
I was going to say, one of the funny things about Stephen King, a lot of people don't know this, but the first part of the movie Dark Half is actually based on Stephen King's life. That's when people found out that he was actually Richard Bachman. How that kind of happened in that movie is what happened to him to a certain extent. He said it was a little bit different, but like he wasn't getting blackmailed like the guy in the movie. But he was talking about how a guy found out that he was Richard Bachman and wanted to know, and he was like, yeah, so he admitted it to it.
I got about halfway through Dark Half. I couldn't finish it. It was just too slow, and I'm just like, ugh. It's like I'll get to a point in a book where I'm just like, if I'm not enjoying it, if I have no idea what's going on, put it down and grab something else.
I got this in the mail. This is, speaking of authors, Dean Koontz
Collection.
has contributed a whole collection to Hillsdale College. And the reason he did was because he was concerned. Yeah, he said here, when I considered the institutions that expressed an interest in archiving my published work in papers, I could not escape consideration of how many had countenanced, if not in fact encouraged, anti-Semitic rallies and even calls for violence. how many had scrubbed from their history, I'm talking about this genre history, the names of people who were suddenly determined by a mob. Okay, I got to go to the page 15. I just grabbed this when this came up. To be non-persons. In other words, once the mob decided you were a non-person, sound familiar? And how many supported the actions of those on their faculties who championed ideologies that valued ideas over people, often cruel ideas that could be enforced only with the merciless application of brute power. I concluded that there was more than a small chance that those institutions might one day decide that I qualified as a demon of the moment, whereupon what I'd left behind should be shredded and torched. Given Hilldale's 180-year commitment to its mission, its values, and its word, I knew this college was the right choice.
That's awesome. And
Isn't that wild?
That's collectivism. That's
Yep.
what's going on. As Mr. G says,
Mm-hmm.
that's the battle, the collectivist versus the individualist. It's
Yeah, but he literally had to contemplate his life's work being torched if somebody just didn't agree with his genealogy.
yeah. Well, he's not the first,
Nope.
Wow.
but that's cool that he gets it.
And I hope he comes to Hillsdale because I'll make the drive up there. It'd be great to meet him. Wheel in my wagon full of Dean Koontz books and have him autograph them all for me. He's really, as far as a thriller author, I mean, dude gets super dark. Stephen King can't hold a candle to him, honestly.
Oh, wow.
But he writes so well and gripping.
Yeah.
The series of books I was reading when I was recovering from my surgery in 2020 was the series where people were getting vaccinated and the vaccines had the injections. There was like 2 different shots they would get. And once they got infused into your arm, they create nano robots and get up and create a mesh network on your brain. And then you'd become a receiver for programming directly. And people were literally manipulated like puppets. And it was kind of like one of those Stepford Wives kind of thing. But these people didn't even know that they were getting flipped on and off to do certain things. And it was, like an Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So this kind of has that same theme. But I was so mortified as I'm reading through these. And then I finished them before, like by summertime. And then 6 months later, they're talking about rolling out a genetic vaccine and getting booster shots. And I'm like, shit, and then you've got all these researchers looking at the blood and everything saying they're seeing stuff forming in it. I don't know how accurate they are because, I really, really looked hard at those papers and the Substacks that were written. And it really didn't sound like a lot of them were using proper specimen processing techniques. So they could be recognizing things that aren't really there. But it still made for, basically a sci-fi scenario. So it's like, oh God, is Stephen King's fiction or Dean Koontz's fiction turning into a documentary now or what, But yeah, it was, you can't put it past them because there are patents for such things. And just because there's a patent doesn't necessarily mean it's put into process or application. But the fact that somebody was evil enough to think it up and, get it patented is enough to send a chill up your spine and make you stay vigilant.
And for years, maybe he has connections to the intelligence agency.
He does. Yeah, he has to.
Yeah. It's got to be like predictive programming, or they just have an idea of what's going on, or both.
I'm going to have to get going here. Do you have any other questions for me?
John, how's your health doing?
No.
It's okay, man. I'm having some low back issues, but I've been battling that for a long time.
I remember you hearing about you having back surgery. How's that going?
Well, I didn't actually have the surgery. I don't want to have the surgery because, especially in that area, it's bad enough having it in my neck, but in the lumbar area, like I don't want an erector set in there, and it's never going to be the same if you do that.
Yeah.
So
last ditch.
Yeah. So I've been getting injections and stuff, but even that's not good. So I was trying to go as long as I possibly can before having to do it again. Usually they'll last about 4 to 6 months for me. Right now I'm pushing it, so bothers me a little bit, but I'm okay, man. I'm good with whatever. I'm ready to move on whenever the time comes. I'm good.
Hopefully
Doing
that's later than sooner.
what's that?
Hopefully that's later than sooner
Yeah.
for all of us.
No, I just want to say, man, I really appreciate it. Giving us your time, and God bless you, brother. And you know, I hope your journey, you know, you find happiness in your journey and everything. And because I'm gonna tell you, without Christ in your life, the road would be a lot harder. I tell
Yeah,
you.
for sure. For sure. No, I'm happy, dude. I'm good. You know, I'm ready for the next chapter, but I'm not pushing it because I know that's not the way this works now. And so I'm just waiting. I know whatever is supposed to happen will happen, and I'll know it, and I'll know when it's time to move forward with whatever that's going to look like. And I'm good. So I appreciate you guys and all your support and the fans that did stick with me. And I guess it's kind of weird that people would be shocked that I would be involved in something like that. You know, I've been pretty vocal, but I understand being shocked at the narrative that was created. But you know, and like I said at the beginning, it was a stupid, like, impulsive move. But you know, my core values are it's incorruptible. I'm not, you know, it just is. Like, there's not, just what it is. Like, I believe in freedom, and I want peace and prosperity for people, you know, and all this shit that's constantly we're being bombarded with. I got to speak out against it, man. You know, just like I used to. I'm still gonna do that. Thankful for the support from the fans and the, you know, friends, and I'm very grateful for everything that's happened. You know, I know that sounds a little crazy, but I am. So,
Amen, man.
it's good, man. Everything's good.
I'm thankful for your music, John. I've been a huge Iced Earth fan since I was 17. And if I could go back to when I was 17 and tell myself that I'm talking to him right now, I think that's nuts.
Right on, man. I'm glad you like the music, dude. We'll see what happens. There's going to be some cool, like, you know, unreleased kind of things and a few things coming. But in terms of, I know people want new material, and that's probably going to happen at some point, you know, but I don't have a timeline. I just feel like when it happens, it's going to be an explosion, like probably like never before. And because the heaviest things that I've been through in my life have always led to the best music, and in one way, but sometimes it takes a long time. You know, I think it was 1985 when Bill was killed, and then Watching Over Me didn't come out until probably wrote it in 97 because the album came out in 98, something like that. So, you know, I mean, sometimes it takes a lot of years to process things, but when it comes, it comes. And if it's music, I'm open to it. But I don't listen to music, man, you know, hardly ever. And I've never really been like a big muso. I love the bands that I grew up with. I still, you know, I got Peter Criss on my shirt. I still am a metalhead. I always will be, but I don't care about what's going on in the business. I haven't followed any of that stuff. And there's only, like, if Maiden comes out with a new album, you better bet I'm going to buy it, you know, but almost any other band, I don't really follow very much. And it's just because it was a business, you know. I mean, there was a passion and a real thing there, but when you're constantly dealing with the business part of it, it's not something that I would do in my off time, because my off time was always, let me get away from the thing that I'm doing all the time, you know. So, but even now, I don't get into horror movies at all. Like, I don't even want to see it. I don't need to be on edge about anything. It's just my spirit just kind of rejects that stuff. But
I'm the same way with that stuff. actually.
Yeah, I still know that like whatever music I do is going to be heavy. It's going to have an edge to it because that's just ever since I was a little kid, man. Heavy rock and metal guitars. I loved it, and I still do, and I know that's going to that'll be whatever I do is going to have an edge to it. You can count on that, but I don't know what that's going to look like. But there's a lot of inspiration to draw from, that's for sure. And a lot of these events will. Who's that?
This is Tiffany. She's just saying
Hi, Tiff.
goodbye.
Sorry.
Hey, Tiffany.
I was saying, like, I can feel your soul through your music, and I feel like we're like soul brothers. Like, I feel like I have that same warrior blood, and like it. Like Rose showed me a lot of stuff, and it's like, wow, this is our people. Like, that's all I keep thinking. Like, that's our people. Like, and like even before this all started, actually, one thing I wanted to say was I was a part of a group that was kind of like, keeping up with like all the stuff going on, and a lot of us were very upset about like you before it even came, like, because we reviewed the footage, and I was like, actually, I think that man's a hero. Like, I think he just like stopped a lot of extra bullshit from happening, and it's kind of ridiculous that it turned the direction that it did when it's like clear that you were I don't know, I just saw a responsible person. That's all I wanted to say, really. Like, and a lot of us were really like, we would review the footage over and over again, and then they deleted a lot of it from the net, like, to try to like yeah, so that was cool. Actually, she told me about the footage that you were reviewing too before and slowing down, and that you could actually see somebody clearly like stalking him and stuff. I think that stuff is all fascinating. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, wow, like what's going on actually, Sorry, it like popped off.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
end.
Yeah, we ID'd the Getty photographer on set.
Yeah, the photographer. Yeah.
Yeah, Rose and I were going through that frame by frame yesterday.
So the one thing for everybody to think about during this crazy period that we've been in is what you said about our people. There is a divergence going on where this is the thing that's really sad about it, is that it has split families up, but then you start finding people that are of like mind, and it's pretty amazing, when you have that. When I lived out of the U.S., there were the dinner table conversations down in South America were incredible. Because people left the West because of the crap going on, and so you could have these conversations like this. But now it's cool to see that I don't know. I think it's like God working to put us together, people that get it, and that's as painful as it is to know that you have lost friends, and that you've lost
developed very quickly.
Family members, things like that. There's a reason for it. So celebrate in the friendship and the brotherhood and the sisterhood, and it's a good thing. And I do remember that what you're talking about, because I feel like in a flash moment, there was a guy with a backpack, and I seem to remember like grabbing him because he was all dressed in black. And
Yep.
Yes.
And he had his arms around the one police officer on that far left wall, kind of where you grabbed him, like by his jacket. Two guys.
Yeah. Two guys.
And
yeah.
you pulled him back, and that allowed the cop to break free, because that guy had a bear hug on that one cop, and I think he was trying to hit him.
Really?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
That was on the CNN video. We just pulled that one up, but
Yeah.
cell
Yeah.
phone video's the one where we actually caught that Getty photographer coming in from your right side. He spotted your hat and made a beeline across the hallway behind the police line right for you. And we found the actual frame where you're both in the same frame, and he's looking right at you, and you turn your head. You're just, looking back and forth because situational awareness. But he had a bead on you, and we struggled on those cell phone videos to see if we could see him raising the camera up, because, it was real funky cell phone video. But you could slow it down and go frame by frame.
Yeah, it's really nice.
I didn't watch that stuff.
Yeah.
After,
And it was orchestrated.
Another point where you helps.
Yeah.
I
It
just
was
didn't need
totally.
to. I knew we were being railroaded. I knew,
Yep.
like when the plea deal, it was my attorney's like, look, man, you're not going to be able to get a trial outside of the district. He's like, this, they're going to hit you with another 100 years of charges on top of the 60. He's like, I can beat a lot of those, but you know what DC's like? If I'm you, I take the plea. And then basically Jamie and Heather and Matt and my family were all like, just take the plea, dude. Just, you're not gonna win this. It's like there is no winner in a situation like this. But so before I surrendered, the stress level was so intense, and I didn't watch any of that stuff.
No.
I didn't.
They really made you a scapegoat, and they made you like the face of this whole thing throughout. Like the media coverage was disgusting.
Yeah, they scripted a narrative for you, and then choreographed and orchestrated the opportunity that you gave them by going in, because like you said, that was you, but they had their narrative ready to go. They probably had a bunch of people tagged from maybe as far back as Stop the Steal, and probably worked up a narrative for each and every one of them. And when it all kind of fell apart because they made you out to be someone you weren't, I think that was egg on their face. So they were spiteful and vindictive.
Yeah, but I had forgotten about that until you brought it up. But I do remember grabbing it. I don't remember that if he had his arms on a cop, but I remember something like that being all in black and having a backpack. It was just, it did. I don't know. There was some instinctual thing, but I had actually forgotten about all that until you guys just brought that up tonight. So.
Yeah, you could actually see him, and it's on that CNN. It was from the Capitol surveillance video from above, and you grabbed both those guys and pulled them back.
Yeah,
and
it's so
the
clear
cop to break free. Yeah.
When I think about all the stuff that was said about you, that scene like replays and like haunts my mind because it just irks me so much. Like I'm a very big like justice person, and like when I see somebody doing the right stuff and like you know what I mean, it just the punishment doesn't match like the non-crime. It's just like it was too much for my brain. So
it was overwhelming.
Yeah, it stressed us all out.
Yeah, that was overwhelming.
You got me praying harder overtime while you're still in jail, bro.
Yeah, well, I appreciate.
Kind of changed my spiritual life too.
I appreciate those prayers, and I don't know, man. I don't know. I just hope that peace and reason will prevail. That's it. So anyway, anyway, I love you guys very much. Thank you for all of your support, and for Rose, you've been amazing. Daria, of course, you have, and it was nice to meet you. Dave, nice to talk to you. Billy, your name is Tiffany.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Tiffany.
Nice to meet you.
And let's just stay confident in the armor of God and speak the truth and go speak the truth boldly. That's what we got to do.
Yep.
All right.
Amen.
Good night,
Thank you so much, John.
Thank you, John.
Yep.
Have a great night.
You too.
Love you, bro. Take
Love
care.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you, John.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So
wow, that was good.
Go. Yep.
Yeah, something popped into my head when you were talking about the narrative soundscape.
Yep.
First of all, the idea to do that was brilliant. To read the lyrics in that dramatic way with the the music in the background, with the specific atmosphere he created, but also just the character and tone and quality of the voice he used to do that. I actually got to thinking about that popular actor who nobody recognizes because he's like the voice behind a lot of Muppet type characters like Gollum and stuff like that. Is Andy Serkis, Serkis.
Andy Serkis, yes.
Yeah, he rarely is an actor you see his face because he's usually a voice of a character. And I got a copy of his audio book narration of C.S. Lewis's The Screw Tape Letters. And part of it includes like a DVD or a video showing his facial expressions as he was narrating his Uncle Screw tape. And you're like, dang, this guy's into it, you know? But I mean, John is of that. I could see him developing that caliber of narrative.
He could
talent.
certainly do voiceovers for like a lot of things too,
Oh,
though.
yeah.
Like, he's
Absolutely.
It
Absolutely.
was on a Sabaton
Like
song.
he's feeling what he's singing, and that's what it is that you're hearing. Like,
Well,
taking
yeah,
Oh,
with
yeah.
Sons of Liberty too.
Oh.
Yeah. With Sons of
Absolutely.
Liberty, like you listen to Stu's version of Spirit of the Times, and then you hear John's version,
Oh, yeah.
and it's like,
You feel it. Yeah.
it's just like, okay. I mean, not saying Stu's a bad vocalist, just saying like the feeling, you know?
Right. And that album came out right when we
Yeah.
went on one of the 70,000 Tons of Metal tours. And
Right.
I burned 2,000 copies because he gave it away for free. And I went around that whole cruise ship handing everybody that CD.
That is
And
awesome.
I was joking with him. I said, dude, I got your worldwide circulation and or distribution in 3 days. And all
I wonder if the
bars-
CDs are still out there somewhere.
Oh, I bet they're all over
Where do you
the
think
world.
they are?
You know, I was like, when I went on a motorcycle ride when we were in Cozumel with, like one of those side trips you can do. And I had them, in my fanny pack, and I was handing them to like street
Yep.
vendors and people.
That's
It's like
actually
music? Okay, here.
Rusty.
Leave it to Daria to do that.
I
Seriously.
did. It was just like, I could not. I had so many in my suitcase. I
Yep.
almost overloaded my suitcase, but it was empty when I headed home because I gave them all away. I had hundreds and hundreds of them in my suitcase for the cruise ship.
Yeah.
But
Nice.
everybody that wanted a copy got a copy. And and all the like the restaurants and the bartenders, I asked
Yep.
them if they would play the music, and he goes, "Yeah, I was sitting there eating dinner. All of a sudden, the music." He goes, "Oh, Daria did that." It was so cool. It was one of those cool moments. That was like 2011, I think. But yeah,
Yep.
it was kind of special. But I don't know. I was on a mission. It's like people have to hear this stuff.
Yeah.
Because he was really waking people up with that album. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that was it was a great one. That was
Yeah.
that was my real first introduction to John because of Alex Jones. I didn't know who John Schaffer was, and then I saw the episode of Alex Jones, and Sons of Liberty was the first John Schaffer music I ever heard. So
Wow.
yeah.
And Dave, you turned Rosando a lot of that too, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I met him after the Alex Jones interview.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was because I
Isn't
met
that
him. I
crazy?
met him after I met you before the Alex Jones interview, but we weren't connecting as much, right? Like that's what it was. We weren't hanging out as much. And then after I had Johnny, he started turning me onto Iced Earth a lot,
Very
Yeah.
cool.
and he took me to see Demons and Wizards.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, the one when Matt came out and that I died for you.
That's why I couldn't
Oh,
have you
yeah.
not here. You had to be here today. Like I'm.
Mhm. Totally. But yeah, Tiffany, I'm glad you picked up on that from the CNN video, that we were talking about where John stopped those guys. And Rose and I talked about that at length yesterday. It's like, yeah, if you really pay attention to that, he probably saved that cop from being injured.
Yes. And a lot, that's what we were analyzing, a lot of that stuff, because we were just in general analyzing, what was even going on, the fact that they were being let into the doors, like it was so calm. It was like they were getting a tour, like, here you go, like it wasn't even like a little bit frantic, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden it was like, it was just like it was brought upon them, and it was like definitely a setup in so many ways. But there's a lot of footage that there was even more than the CNN that was circulating in the groups I was in. There were political groups.
I'm gonna send you that link that Daria gave me because I didn't have that one either.
Oh yeah, what Parlor saw on ProPublica.
Yeah.
That's
It was like all these cell phone
tremendous
videos.
amount of video, and that I was really concerned that somehow that would have been, vanished as well, but it's still there. So maybe they have extra backup servers or something so that it can't get damaged. But
people started getting smart and just saving certain things, like people who are like dedicated to making sure the stuff gets preserved, and they don't, because there's a lot of times they'll release even a mainstream news story and then get rid of it because they want to change the complete narrative, and because people save those
100%.
clips, they can't do it. and it forces them to be accountable when they're trying not to be. And you know, I'm like proud to be like know a few people kind of doing that. There's a few times I swear our group directly would talk about something, and the next thing you know, they had to change because all of the people like we all knew different groups of people. So we would convene in this group, the information would exchange so freaking quick, and then all our groups of people, and then next thing you know, they're like, frick, we have to like edit the story. And each time we did that, they'd have to cave a little more to like admitting the truth and like.
Yeah, that's wild. I mean, the same thing happened with my COVID medical research colleagues. You know, I'm on a Zoom call on Sundays and Tuesdays. It's international. We've had all kinds of heavy hitters as guests, and in the research and medicine world, and even the political world. But also, we have a couple email groups and you know, every media platform you can think of where people can communicate. There's these groups that are continuing 4 years later, and the topics are varied, and they don't just stick to COVID or you know all that kind of.
But anything,
you know, New World Order stuff, but just, you know, how all these things interface. And it's interesting to see the international perspective because we have on the Medical Doctors for COVID Ethics International, that is a Rumble series on Rumble under Charles Kovess, Kovess. And you just got to go to CB Kovess, Charles B. Kovess. And that channel, he's got all our videos going back to almost all the way back to 2021. Because the first one I was on was with RFK Jr., and I was like the first one to raise my hand and ask him a question. And I'm like, I thought I'd ever meet you. This is so cool. You know? But I asked him specifically about where's the lawyers? Where's the ambulance chasers? How come these hospitals aren't getting sued? And he walked us through it. I asked the right question. That nobody was asking, but me as a retired neurosurgeon, knowing how, you know, plaintiffs' attorneys for malpractice go after doctors and having to be an expert witness, you know, and give testimony on various things over the years. It was like crickets. Where are these guys? And they were just, that's why I said that was a betrayal in and of itself, because those were the people you expected to get out there and start making noise when wrongful deaths were happening left and right. And part of it was the courts weren't taking the cases because the judges were either paid to or told to not do the right thing and really violate their own oaths of office and do, you know, their job descriptions. And this is something that if you're not in the medical field, you really didn't see how the behind the scenes, how diabolical this was, and what a betrayal of all of our standards, our ethics. That, you know, everybody's heard of the Hippocratic Oath, first do no harm. That all went out the window. And there were places like New York State, for example, where it looked like some of these care homes, nursing homes, and hospitals went from being places to get people better or, you know, support them in their feeble years to slaughterhouses run by serial killers. And that's a drastic thing to say, but you know, prove me wrong. They're not. The truth's coming out.
They absolutely knew. They absolutely knew that they were doing that stuff, and there was a lot of extreme internal peer pressure to like hush hush about everything.
Yeah, and some people, like I said, the good people of conscience, regardless of what their, you know, faith or non-faith, if that didn't come into it, or their political background, they just knew this isn't how we do things. What do you mean I can't help my patient get better? This is like a well-established protocol, and you're telling me to follow a murderous protocol instead with a drug that failed in AIDS and killed people's kidneys? That, you know, that drug they gave them, remdesivir. Remdesivir. But, you know, and it's almost like we almost have to bring this up periodically as a reminder to people just how bad this was, because sometimes traumatic memories get suppressed.
Yes, they do.
And people will want to forget. And that's why Pfizer was petitioning to keep all their data buried for 75 years, because with each generation, people forget the intensity of what happened. But I think a critical mass of people this time, they kind of, I forgot what one spiritual warfare person said, the devil always overplays his hand, gets hyper confident and overplays his hand.
Yep.
And that's really true. And people do that too, because they have that sense of pride and power and greed. And they just think they're unstoppable. And you could really see that in people like Fauci, Mr. I am the science, you know? And, you know, I don't want to get on my soapbox here, but this is the kind of stuff that it's been churning inside of me for a long time. And it's hard to, you know, have it not be a part of my psyche at the moment, you know, to go, no, don't do that again. You know,
it all ties in together with everything. But, you know, I think we had a really great discussion about all of this stuff. And I hope everybody looks into the research, and I hope everybody looks at John's court transcripts, which I'll be linking below. I'm going to try to see if I can link that CNN video. And so if you skip to minute 114, you'll see John pulling people off of police officers. And I just, you know, I really want to get, you know, this information out there. You could also read the lawsuit, which shows that John was, you know, by himself. There's like a sentence.
Yeah.
Maybe a little, maybe more than, maybe a couple sentences, but it was such a small amount of, you know, accountability that they were trying to, you know, it really didn't make sense why he was named in the lawsuit. It was just like such a small amount of.
A shotgun approach. They wanted to bankrupt and destroy everyone. And it was hard to find that press conference, the complete one, that district attorney general, I don't know what his title is.
Yeah, I listened to it.
Yeah, but it was hard to find all the quotes. I had to go to several different papers, and I had to search my own archives and the cloud and all that to find that part about, well, if they all end up financially destitute or bankrupt because of this, so be it.
Yep.
It was like, it was literally malicious prosecution. That should have him disbarred. So these are the kind of disciplinary actions that all went out the window.
Yes.
You know?
And that needs to be highlighted. And, you know, for the people, because I'm sure a lot of people are going to see this, for the people who are haters out there, you don't have to like John Schaffer. You don't have to like his music or like his actions, but I still encourage you to take a look at the footage and the court transcripts to at least understand what happened that day with him in particular, because he really didn't participate in much. And we have to keep reiterating over and over again that he didn't have any part of the planning that day, wasn't on any cell phone conversations, texts, phone calls. None of this stuff. He wasn't a part of any kind of group to take down the United States government. He was just an impassioned man that went inside that day.
Exactly.
That's what I've been trying to convey to a lot of people for the last couple of years. And I really hope that, you know, like I said, you don't have to love John, but at least do a little bit of research before you start saying stuff, you know?
And you know, I think one thing that people maybe don't understand is John, I think the depth of his love for our country, it has been just amplified with each tour overseas. And he has seen the world. He has seen how the world works everywhere. And I don't want to speak for him, but I know that we have a system of laws, and we have a system of rule of law and due process, and we can't have that sort of in a two-tiered system where it's good for some folks but not for others. And we saw over the past 4-5 years, I'm going to say 5 years, that just went off the rails completely. And it, again, cost people lives, not just COVID, but crime, just attacks, human trafficking, you name it. Oh, the crimes against children. You know, if the Jesus sends a meteor to obliterate this planet, I would have think the last 5 years were enough to piss him off to do it.
Yeah.
No, I have to jump in quick again because I listen
Oh, I
to
know,
a lot
right?
of crime. I listen to a lot of crime shows, and what you just said hit a nerve of a recent thought, because the more crime shows that I hear about children, it's like such extreme abuse was happening literally as a direct result of everything. I'm not saying those people weren't just hideous monsters as people, but like the climate facilitated them to be the worst of the worst, and a lot more children suffered and died, I feel like out of everything. And I mean, I know a lot of people lost their businesses and a lot of people's health extremely failed, and then the triple the sized heart and everything, like people
Yeah.
dropping. And but like that kids thing really got to me recently, because some of these crimes, I mean, I won't get into them because you won't be able to sleep at night with some of the stuff I listen to, but like it's so bad, and my brain recognizes like, you know, patterns, like it will see.
Right.
And I was like, oh my God, there's so many of them. And it just started hitting me how bad, like what an epidemic it was. Literally, that was the actual epidemic, you know, the abuse that was going on. And like,
Yeah, it's just like it was. We talk about this a lot on our COVID podcast. This is what unrestricted warfare looks like. Literally, unlimited, unrestricted warfare, and I've said it multiple times. Godlessness is hell on earth, and we were literally watching it in real time in our lives. And like I said, a couple generations, you know, if we have nothing but good times ahead, people are going to forget.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, guys, I hate to, but I have to go. And so
it's all
if
good.
y'all want to stay and talk, everything y'all can. And
we're gonna head out
'cause,
too, because it's 2.5 hours. But
Yeah, that's a long time.
I got to feed the dogs because they're
Yeah,
gonna.
yeah.
Natives are
I
gonna
want to
get
say
arrested,
thanks
so
for
I'm gonna
everybody
close
that
the
showed
door.
up. And
If they heard me talking, you'd hear
Thanks
nothing
for
but dog
hosting us,
bark.
Bill.
oh, that's fine. Yeah.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you for
Thank
having
you,
me.
For
Bill.
everything. We love you
yeah, no
guys.
problem.
Love you guys.
Oh
Yeah,
And,
look at this group that John brought together. This is wild.
Yep.
Motley
For
crew here.
real.
Love you guys.
Yep.
Well, we love you
Wonderful.
guys,
Oh, yeah.
and we love you,
Yep.
John, and we love
I know,
everybody
right?
who watched today.
Yep. Yep.
Have a great
Okay,
night.
guys, take care.
Bill, this was a dream come true. Thank
That's
you for
right. Love
having me.
y'all.
Oh,
All right, night.
Dave, you're awesome.
Oh, no problem.
I
man.
try to be. I try to be.